When Tyler Joseph said, "I wish her parents would stop yelling," that was a personal attack. That was a personal attack on me specifically and my parents' divorce. So we are back again with the Breach content. This is going to be something kind of more generalized, kind of a broad overview, but I just wanted to give my album review, some kind of quick thoughts, and just generally what I thought about the new album. Because making the content that I do get questions about it, so, you know, that warrants this video. So going into this album, taking in Drum Show and The Contract into consideration, I was expecting the whole thing to sound gritty, and it is. Don't get me wrong, but it also isn't. I like the sound that they were going for in this album. I've said before that I like their heavier stuff. I think it's part of the reason why Trench was so well received is because it was louder and grungier, and I think 21 Pilots really do well in that space considering what they talk about and just how they deal with that sound. I think that does really well for them. And Breach is that to an extent. I think it's like a kind of, I think I said in my like initial reaction video that it's kind of like an unpolished Clancy. It's like a kind of a more punk Clancy in a way, but I also feel like it's every album they've ever done rolled into one. You can hear elements of everything that they've done in the past. Vessel especially, which I think that's why I like Breach so much, is because if you're familiar with me, Vessel has been my favorite album for the longest time, and there's very strong Vessel vibes in this. It's like Vessel, but with their more modern production, and that's a good thing. It's like, I don't want to say an improved Vessel, but it's like a revisited Vessel with a modern 21 Pilots, which I enjoyed that a lot. But it's got the grit and just the volume of Trench. It has the themes of Blurryface and even some of their older like self-titled stuff like way back that's giving me those vibes. It could sound like Vessel. I thought One Way even sound very Scaled and Icy, and I mean that in a nice way. I know I have words about Scaled and Icy, alright, but One Way, I enjoyed One Way, and it did sound a lot like Scaled and Icy, even down to like the like candid phone call. The thing that they did with Josh in that reminded me a lot of what they did with Jenna and Saturday. So I think this idea of throwing references in this album and finding elements of everything in the past in this new one, I think is a good way to end the storyline and to end this chapter in the band. But at the same time, it felt something new entirely. This is something so interesting about 21 Pilots, is that I feel like they're always changing. You know, and that's not a controversial statement. There's a lot of people that don't even know what genre they are. I don't even think 21 Pilots know what genre they are. And this album did feel like they were trying to explore a little bit with that heavier sound. You know, Drum Show has a metal breakdown. It's basically like a prog metal song. And like, I know there's gonna be people like, oh, it's not that heavy, but this is 21 Pilots we're talking about. Like, you know, it was something for them to do that kind of thing. Center Mass is almost jazzy, and then you have like that punk beat right in the middle, and there's big punk elements in this album, and there's so many like genres kind of thrown together and mixed, and you can tell that Tyler is experimenting with sounds and genres and instruments, and there's a lot of guitar in this that sounds awesome. And even vocally, I've noticed since The Line, it seems like Tyler is trying to figure out what else he can do with his voice, and he's taking it in very interesting directions. I love that there's screams on this album. You know, the screams are a very iconic Tyler Joseph thing. I think I am not in the minority when I say that I wanted more Tyler screams. They are so iconic live. I think we needed some recorded ones, and I'm so glad that he's leaning into that a little bit more. All of that to say, I feel like there's so much new in this album, but at the same time, like I said before, there's so many references to their past, and 21 Pilots are kind of an enigma in that they are always exploring their sound and always trying to do something different, and I feel like each album that they release has a distinct sound. Yet at the same time, it sounds so 21 Pilots. It's so fascinating to me. Like, they have such a distinct style. I don't really know how to necessarily explain it. I'm just a drummer who doesn't really know, you know, technical terms for music, but they have a very distinct style about them, while at the same time having no style at all. It's very bizarre. 21 Pilots are a very bizarre band because at the same time, I also feel like they're so famous, but not famous at all. Like, 21 Pilots are still doing very well. Like, they haven't fallen off, but if you ask normal people, they're like, 21 Pilots, nobody's listened to 21 Pilots since 2015. Not true. Actually, not true. It's so bizarre to me that they can, like, sell out a tour, but then the majority of people don't even recognize them as still being relevant. It's a fascinating little anomaly with that band. I'm not sure. As for the themes of this album, it was very much giving me kind of self-titled 21 Pilots almost, in that it's very dark. I know that there's been some critiques in the past that Scaled and Icy was not dark enough, and I guess Tyler was just like, here, damn, like, you want dark, here you go. And this album is very dark. I mean, it's up there with their older stuff, but you can tell that this Tyler's different. I feel like with their past stuff, there's a lot of songs that explore these darker themes with mental health and the journey of getting through that, but it relied a lot on staying in that space, staying in that headspace. With Breach, it does the same things, but there's kind of these moments of self-reflection because Tyler is older and because Tyler has now all of these experiences and has gained all of these things. You can see this element of him trying to teach a lesson, you know, him trying to maybe talk to us through his music, where it's like, I know how it feels, I felt it, but this is how I got through it, or this is how I'm dealing with it. And there's this element of self-awareness of like, I know this is how I am and this is just the way that it is. And I think it just goes to show how much Tyler has grown as a person. You know, you can look at the things that he's done musically and tell that he's grown as a person, but also looking lyrically, looking into how he's dealing with these topics. I feel like it's so similar to what he's done in the past, but there's something different to it. But there's almost this like self-awareness to it now that I don't think was there before. And I think it just goes to show how much Tyler has grown as a person, not just a musician. And that's really cool to see. You know, I think because of the nature of 21 Pilots, there's a lot of people who dedicate a lot of their time into the band, myself included. You know, I was 13 when this started. I'm 24 now, and I think there's been a lot of people that grow up with this band. Obviously, Tyler himself has grown a lot in that span of time, and because Tyler is also maturing his music, I think that goes well with the people who have grown up alongside of the music. The End of the Lore, which I've talked about pretty much to nauseum at this point, either on this channel or in my real life when people ask me about it. At the time, I think the way that it was handled, it was shocking to a lot of people, but looking at this album and looking at past things, there's so many references to a cycle and to this never ending. If you look at Raw Fear, he says, it's not a pass or a fail, but a poisonous progression. And I feel like that, of course, goes into Oldie Station and even goes into Next Semester, where it's like, there's never a concrete ending. This never ends. You never win or lose. It's just taking what you've learned and taking that to the next semester. Like, you can't go back and change anything. You can't necessarily stop it. You can just take what you know and move on to the next thing. And that seems to be a heavy theme in the songs, and of course that is the ending of the story. But going back to the strong themes of their older things, you know, the dark elements, even musically it sounds like a lot of their older stuff. There's a lot of Christian themes in this as well. You know, my friend and I were just texting how she really resonated with those sort of elements and dealing with faith and trying to work out that relationship with God. And that was a big theme back in the day. I admittedly, that never left, but I think the way that Tyler handled it in this album is a lot like he did with the older albums, and even like, I'm talking like No Fun Intended, Regional at Best, like that old stuff is a lot like how he handled those themes in Breach. Drag Path, I don't know if we want to bring that up. Drag Path, the bonus track on Digital Remains, which yes, I did buy. Yes, I did spend like $8 on some posters and a 5-minute song. Like, whatever, sue me. But I am counting Drag Path as part of Breach because it is Breach, even though it's like a bonus track, whatever. That song is basically a gospel song. Like, I was thinking about that, and I talked to some friends about it, and not unprompted, they were like, this sounds like a gospel song, and they're absolutely right. And then you have Downstairs, which was an older demo, and that in itself sounds very Vessel-like, and I enjoyed that a lot as someone who has been a fan for a really long time and fell in love with their older stuff. That's what initially drew me in. It's really cool to see that come back and pop up, but it's not, a rehashing of what he's done in the past. Like I said before, it's so strange. He toes the line of nostalgia and reinventing himself very, very well. And honestly, it was very cool to see Tyler go back to these concepts, to go back to these themes with an older mind, with a more experienced mind. That was really cool to see how that changed and grew over the past 10 years. I feel like there's so many references in this song. The holding on to you, hearing Entertain My Faith in the Big 25, Insanity. You had the Truce references, Heavy Dirty Soul. The lyric, my tattoos only hurt when the meaning fades. That being related to Doubt, where it's like, I want the markings made on my skin to mean something to me again. I'm sure I could just sit and make an entire video picking out all of those callbacks to different songs and different points in time. I do want to say, I know, like, technically that only The Contract and City Walls are lore related, like, at least officially, but I do want to throw it out there that I think Tally is also lore related. There's a couple things going on. I think City Walls is like the official ending as far as like in universe, right? You have Intentions being Tyler as a person, not as a character, but as an actual, musician looking back on this story, how he interpreted City Walls, which is another ending in itself. And then you have people now with Drag Path. That's almost like an alternate ending, I think. If you want to look at it as an ending, I think that works. And I kind of look at it as an alternate ending to City Walls, or maybe more into Clancy's mind during City Walls, or the build up to City Walls. So you have that going on. You also have Intentions just being Truce in reverse, so there's a lot of people looking to Truce for the ending. And then, just to throw the entire system off, I'm going to say that Tally is Clancy interpreting what he did to Torchbearer during City Walls, or the build-up to City Walls. He mentioned seeing heartbreak on his face. This is heartbreak. So I feel like Tally is Clancy acknowledging that he hurt Torchbearer, which obviously goes into Intentions, right? It seems like Clancy went into the cycle with new intentions, with better intentions than before, but he understands how that comes across, so I feel like there is some guilt there. That's just me, but that's just a theory, a game theory. It is just insane to me that the ending of the entire lore has been in Vessel the entire time. The ending was in Truce, and we have just been sitting with that for years and years and years without knowing it. You could say that these things are accidental, and I'm sure some of them are, but just the level of thought, the level of care, and how well that this was planned and choreographed is just insane. I think that goes into the mastermind that is Tyler Joseph. Obviously, he cares a lot about what he does. He puts a lot of thought into what he does, and to see it play out the way that it did was just magical, to say the least. Now I just want to go back and listen to a bunch of 21 Pilots songs. Not that I don't normally, but I feel like now that we know the ending, it puts so many different songs into different perspectives. Like Morph. Morph is completely different now. I'll morph to someone else? Yeah, bud, you sure did. You morphed into Nico. He goes by Nico. He told me I'm a copy. Yeah, because he's literally a copy, because Nico was Clancy, but now Clancy is Nico. Yes. It's just, again, it's insane how much of this was laid out, and the foundations were there, and we just had no idea. And now looking back on it, it's just like, this was here the entire time. Overall, I like the album a lot. Breach is becoming one of my favorites. I still think that remains true. Probably in part because it sounds so much like Vessel. I am a Downstairs girly. If you are a fellow Downstairs girly, please let me know. Make some noise in the chat, because Y'all sleeping on downstairs. And I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Breach by 21 Pilots. Certainly will not be the last you ever hear of this album on this channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe to join the Groovy Graveyard. We are so close to 6,000 right now, it's kind of insane. 6,000 happy haunts in the Groovy Graveyard. Let's make it happen, chat. Shout out to my patrons over on Patreon, and I will see you in the next one.